Regan King, and I am a visual artist and graphic designer based out of Bloomington, Illinois. And I recently finished the Atlanta mural. It was commissioned by the Atlanta Public Library, and it is in the future lobby of the Atlanta Museum at ISU, Illinois State University. At the time that I graduated, was really interested in abstract paintings constructed with a lot of masking and spraying acrylic paint, and they came out as these nebulous, blobby things that were kind of three-dimensional and didn't really sit anywhere.
Can I show them?
Yeah, let's look at some paintings. So, my interest was really with the dimensionality of the spraying and like the kind of imperfect moments that come from masking and that process. So they're not representational, but they kind of take on a personality.
Well, that one sure has a personality.
Yeah.
Group of kids, 10-year-olds that were in before really liked this one because they thought it looked like a gummy bear.
Oh, I see how it could be.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which has that kind of juicy dimension that you're talking about,
bright
too.
colors. Yeah, I like this kind of like making something seem three-dimensional without giving it too much detail, like having just like a little edge on something.
Yeah.
It's kind of quirky and funky, and at the time I was really comforted by how light and positive and kind of funny these paintings were. They're fun and they were comforting in my life. Making is kind of analogous to respiration. Like I, at some points, need to be consuming and inhaling and bringing in concepts or ideas, and then it's like it's gonna only amass to an exhale, which is maybe producing or putting out. And so currently I think I'm right on the cusp, and I having finished this project, this massive project, the biggest project I've ever done, it's definitely built up a momentum that I'm excited about. So in my day-to-day life, I work full-time at a senior living community. I do marketing for them, so I incorporate graphic design and creativity into that position, but some days it's very much administrative. And then I have my studio practice, which I value most. I, in my brain, call it my first job sometimes, even though I wouldn't tell my boss that.
Yeah.
And then I have a freelance graphic design practice, and that is pretty demanding because I'm still building a lot of skills. I would categorize this mural in that category of this trifecta of work that I do. I think that doing this mural was very much a design project, more than a studio project, because it required a lot of back and forth between me and the community, and because what I suggested first and what the result was, there was a lot in between that. There was a lot of growth and development, and it evolved. People working at the library and others who were friends of the library, who sat in on the very first meeting where I came in with different boards. I have them. You want me to grab them?
Sure.
I made these very initial rudimentary kind of pitches And something that was talked about initially in Atlanta was landmarks. Is that the best way to hold it?
Sure.
Okay. So I just at first collected, they wanted to touch on all these landmarks. So there was a grain elevator, and there's this guy holding a hot dog, and there's a clock tower, and a couple of other, the water tower. So I just had these really initial sketches, and then I kind of made a drawing that at the time my very first pitch was to turn these icons, all of these different landmarks, into a wallpaper and wallpaper this wall. That was not, and they were not in favor of that, which I see now why, because the overall vision, I think, for a lot of community members was to include a landscape.
Yeah.
And so it became something a little bit more of like a landscape. These clouds,
Oh, yeah.
I really dug. They are referencing a Georgia O'Keeffe painting.
Beautiful stairwell.
Yes, at the Art Institute of Chicago. And then this was another version, and so I made these sketches. At the time, I should mention the mural was half the size in the beginning.
Yeah.
So once we started talking about this ribbon action, which was coming purely from the history of the fair in Atlanta. I guess Atlanta used to host the county fair, and it was serving all of the areas around Atlanta, and it was a big hub. So we stuck with these ribbons and this kind of graphic text scrolling across the mural in a really explosive way, with these intersections of paths. Once we started talking about that, they wanted to double the size of the mural, which was a really big moment because the idea of doubling the size of the mural was not coinciding with the idea of extending our deadline. So it was like, how do we double the size of this mural while still finishing it in a month and a half?
Yeah.
Which was overwhelming, and I was characteristically overambitious in that category. I said I'd knock it out, and we were going to do it, and we scheduled every weekend to get work done. It was going to be about 60 hours total with all the volunteers. I had about 10 volunteers over the course of the month and a half that we worked on it, which was amazing, and more than I anticipated. And people would come in, and I would direct them on what areas and maybe how I wanted something painted, and then they would knock it out, and it was wonderful. Maybe scale does have a direct influence.
Yeah.
Maybe I just want to make the tiniest paintings just to get it out of my system.
Oh,